Welcome to Relationship Exposed. In today's video, before I tell you the sentence that shattered something deep inside me, I need you to understand what my life looked like before that moment, before my wife's birthday turned into the breaking point of our marriage. To anyone on the outside, we seemed fine. Not perfect, but fine enough. We had a nice little house in a quiet neighborhood, 2 cars in the driveway, steady jobs, and the kind of life people describe as comfortable. But comfort is a tricky word. It can mean warmth and safety, or it can mean stagnation, a dull, creeping stillness that suffocates you without you realizing it. For me, it had become the latter. Our mornings had turned into a silent choreography. She would wake up, scroll on her phone for 20 minutes, get out of bed without so much as a good morning, and make coffee while I showered. We used to talk over breakfast, laugh even. But lately, it was just the sound of spoons clinking against cereal bowls and the soft hum of the fridge. I'd try to start conversations. Do you want to go hiking this weekend? Or, remember that trip we talked about? But her responses were always short, distracted. A maybe here, a we'll see there. And sometimes, she didn't respond at all. The thing about emotional distance is that it doesn't arrive with fireworks or sirens. It's slow, gradual. You wake up one day and realize you're living with someone who knows your schedule, your habits, your favorite coffee order, but no longer seems interested in you. We still did the married couple things. Grocery shopping, visiting family, watching TV in the evenings, but it all felt transactional, like we were business partners managing the logistics of a shared property instead of 2 people building a life together. I noticed little changes in her. The way she started spending more time working late or going out with friends without inviting me. The way her phone seemed glued to her hand and how she'd angle the screen away from me when a message popped up. The way she stopped making any physical contact unless it was absolutely necessary. A quick hug goodbye, a pat on the shoulder instead of a kiss. I told myself it was stress. Everyone goes through phases, but a quiet dread had started to take root in my chest. Her birthday was coming up. In the past, I'd go all out. Surprise parties, expensive gifts, weekend trips. I wanted her to feel celebrated, loved. This year, I thought maybe doing something special could bring us back, even if just a little. I spent weeks thinking about it. I booked a reservation at her favorite restaurant, ordered a custom necklace I knew she'd been eyeing online, and even arranged for her best friend to fly in and surprise her. I thought, foolishly, that this would be the spark we needed. The night before her birthday, we were sitting in the living room. The TV was on, but neither of us was paying much attention. I decided to ask her casually, hoping to start a light, fun conversation. "Hey," I said, "your birthday's tomorrow. If you could have anything as a gift, no limits, what would it be?" She looked at me, really looked at me, not with surprise, not with warmth, but with this detached, almost bored expression, and then she said it. "You disappearing would be my best birthday gift." There was no hesitation in her voice, no playful smirk to suggest she was joking, just cold, flat words that landed in the pit of my stomach like a lead weight. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. "What?" I asked, forcing a half laugh. "You heard me," she said, her eyes flicking back to the TV as if the conversation was already over. "If you weren't here, my life would be a lot easier." I can't tell you exactly what happened in my head in that moment because it wasn't a single thought. It was a storm. Confusion, hurt, anger, disbelief. A voice inside me was screaming, "What did I do to deserve that?" Another voice whispered, "You already knew something was broken, didn't you?" I wanted to argue, to demand an explanation, but I could feel the walls of my composure cracking, and I knew, if I spoke right then, it would turn into a shouting match. So I stayed silent. I nodded, as if her words hadn't just gutted me, and muttered something about being tired. I went to bed early, but I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying her tone, her expression, her choice of words, and slowly, something in me shifted. The man who had been trying to fix this marriage, trying to win her back, trying to keep the peace, he started to fade. In his place was someone colder, sharper, someone who had just been told he was disposable. and decided to show her what that really looked like. That night, a plan began to take shape. The morning of her birthday started quietly, almost deceptively so. The sunlight crept lazily across our bedroom walls, spilling in through the thin gap in the curtains. She was still in bed, one hand curled loosely under her cheek, the other resting on top of the blanket. I stared at her for a long time before saying anything. A part of me wanted to wish her happy birthday, lean over, kiss her forehead like I had in the earlier years of our marriage, and pretend, just for a few moments, that things were still good between us. But another part of me remembered every cold shoulder, every dismissive glance, every night she rolled away from me without a word. The weight of those memories pressed down on my chest. I eventually got up, made her coffee exactly the way she liked, 2 sugars, no cream, and set it on her nightstand. She stirred, opened her eyes, and looked at me as though I'd just interrupted her from something far more important. No, thank you, no smile, just that faintly annoyed look she'd mastered over the years. I told myself not to take it personally, that maybe she just wasn't a morning person today. But the truth was, I couldn't remember the last time she'd looked at me with genuine warmth. At breakfast, I tried small talk, asked if she wanted to go out somewhere, maybe have dinner later. She shrugged and said she hadn't decided yet. I pressed a little, suggested a place I knew she'd loved once upon a time. She frowned as though I was being pushy. That's when I made the mistake of asking, "So, what do you want for your birthday this year?" She put her fork down slowly, like she was bracing for a difficult conversation, but when she spoke, her voice was calm, too calm. "Honestly," she said, meeting my eyes for the first time that morning, "the best birthday gift you could give me is to disappear." I laughed, because what else could I do? I thought maybe she was joking, maybe she was trying to be sarcastic in that dark humor way we sometimes used to tease each other. But her face didn't change. Her eyes stayed locked on mine, unblinking, unsoftened. That's when I realized she meant it. Every syllable was deliberate, every word carefully chosen to cut deep. My chest tightened. I wanted to ask why, to demand an explanation, but I could already feel the power shifting in the conversation. If I asked her to justify herself, it would sound like I was begging for her approval, and I refused to give her that satisfaction. So instead, I simply nodded, took a sip of my coffee, and said, "Noted." The rest of the day was a blur of politeness that masked the silent storm brewing inside me. I didn't yell, I didn't argue, I didn't try to change her mind, but inside, something cracked, no, shattered. In that moment, I understood 2 things with perfect clarity. First, she no longer saw me as someone she wanted in her life. And second, if she wanted me gone, I could give her exactly that, but not the way she imagined. That was the moment the idea started forming. Not revenge, not in the traditional sense, but something far more precise. If she wanted me to disappear, I would. But I'd make sure she'd never forget what happened after I did. The morning of her birthday arrived. I moved around the house with a calmness that wasn't real. Inside, my heart felt like a storm. She was still asleep when I left a neatly wrapped box on her nightstand. No card, no note, just the gift. I took my duffel bag, the one I'd quietly packed over the past week, and slipped out the door. She wanted me gone? Then she'd get exactly that. I didn't just disappear physically, I erased myself from her world. The joint account? Emptied of my half, my clothes, important documents, personal items, already relocated to a small apartment across the city. I blocked her on social media, disconnected my number, and left no forwarding address. Hours later, while she was likely celebrating her freedom, she would have opened that box. Inside, she'd find a small leather-bound journal. Every page was dated, stretching back months, each entry detailed moments, not just of my pain, but of her words, her actions, the coldness that had slowly replaced love. I wrote it all down, not to hurt her, but to force her to see herself without excuses. At the very end of the journal, the last page read, "This is the gift you asked for, my absence. But the real surprise? You'll never again have the man who once loved you enough to endure it all. He's gone, and he's never coming back." I never heard her reaction. I never needed to. My life moved on in silence, far away from her chaos, carrying the peace I had fought for, and as far as I'm concerned, that was the best birthday gift I could have ever given, for both of us.